I'd like to tell you a little bit about John Dudley North. So, J.D. North was born in 1893. He was educated at Bedford School, and he started an apprenticeship in the shipbuilding industry. He went to Camel Laird's in Belfast. And when the Aeronautical Journal started doing competitions, J.D. North won the first two, and he was asked by the editor to stop applying and give somebody else a chance. But the editor of the Aeronautical Journal also suggested to him that he might want to go into flying. And in 1911 he moved his apprenticeship to Horatio Barber's Aeronautical Syndicate at Hendon. And a couple of years later he moved to the Grey and White Aircraft Company, also at Hendon. And while he was at the Grey and White Company in 1915, he designed the first aeroplane, the first British aeroplane to do a loop. That was in 1913. In 1915 he moved to Austin Motors to be superintendent in charge of aircraft building at Austin Motors. And they were building RE7s and RE8s for the Royal Flying Corps. And then in 1917 he moved to Bolton and Paul at Norwich. At that point they were called Bolton and Paul, and he moved there to set up an experimental aircraft team. And he worked for Bolton and Paul for over 50 years, initially as chief engineer in Norwich, and then as managing director. The company became a standalone entity, Bolton Paul Aircraft, in 1934, and then in 1936 it moved to Wolverhampton, to the site on the Wobaston Road just outside Bilbrook. And during that time, started to license the gun turret design that was designed by a French company called SAMM. Turrets were getting bigger and heavier, shooting accuracy was going down because of the difficulty of moving the turret. So they licensed that system and improved it, and the Bolton Paul turret was used on the Overstrand bomber, the Defiant, as you probably all know, and then in the Second World War in the Halifax, and in Consolidated Liberators when the RAF used them. And during the Second World War, Bolton Paul at Wolverhampton made over 20,000 gun turrets. So after the Second World War, that specialisation and expertise in powered control moved into powered flying controls, and the powered flying controls were then used in the Buccaneer, Vulcan and Concorde, and then later 609, 525, JSF, Hawk, Wildcat and Flara. So that powered flying control expertise is still obviously being developed and used at Wolverhampton. In 1961, J.D. North became aware that Staveley Industries were thinking of taking over Bolton Paul, and he was friends with George Doughty, and between them, within a week, they organised the takeover of Bolton Paul by Doughty, and the company then became Doughty Bolton Paul. And with various takeovers and sales, eventually the company was bought by Moog and moved to the I-54 site in Wolverhampton about 12 years ago. J.D. North had a special interest in aircraft reliability. In fact, he was one of the founding members of the Operational Reliability Club, which became the Operational Reliability Society. And in 1964, he was invited to Athens to do a lecture, a seminar on reliability. And the title of his lecture, I'm going to read this out so I get it right, was How to Succeed in Improving Reliability by Actually Trying. He was elected an honorary fellow of the Royal Aeronautical Society in 1961 and received the CBE from the Queen in 1962. In 1967, the University of Birmingham bestowed on him the honorary degree of Doctor of Science in recognition of his achievements in the fields of aviation, ergonomics and operational research. He died in Bridgnorth in 1968 at the age of 75, but of course his legacy lives on.